I'm an Aquarius woman. I just broke up with my boyfriend. No one understands me, not even my family, not even the person I love. I always live alone. I don't know why. These are the honest words of one viewer, but they're also the shared voice of many who were born under the sign of Aquarius, because there's a kind of pain, unnamed, invisible, unspoken. And the longer they live, the more Aquarius learns to accept one thing: being misunderstood. They may be smart, logical, witty, analytical, but no one sees the isolation beneath the surface. They're the type of person who can talk to 100 people, yet none of them truly touch the world inside. On the outside, they look free, but on the inside lies a complex emotional system that's not easy to access. Why is that? Because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, the planet of breakthroughs, of limitless intellect, of ideas ahead of their time. In astrology, Uranus represents disrupted order for those who refuse to live by the rules. And that's exactly why Aquarius was born, to belong to no mold at all. They're unlike anyone else, and they don't need to be like anyone else. But the price of that difference is misunderstanding, isolation, and sometimes being pushed out of connection by their own hands. In this video, we'll explore the 5 deepest emotional layers of an Aquarius soul: wounding, rebellion, escape, the longing to connect, and the journey to find themselves again. Not to heal, but to understand why they are the way they are. Because once Aquarius understands where they come from, they'll no longer need to exhaust themselves searching for someone who gets them. So what is it in Aquarius energy map that makes you live with that feeling? There is no journey that's exactly the same. But if you're an Aquarius, chances are somewhere within these layers of emotion, you might recognize a part of yourself. And perhaps the very first thing an Aquarius ever felt so clearly was pain. Not the pain of being hated, but the pain of being different, so quietly that it becomes an invisible wound. Not everyone is born with a sense of not belonging, but for Aquarius, that feeling comes very early and very silently. It's not because someone hurt them, but because the way they were programmed at birth never quite fit with the world around them. Uranus, the ruling planet of Aquarius, is the symbol of breakthroughs, of independent thinking, of ideas ahead of their time. In astrology, Uranus represents disruption of structure, defiance of norms, and the catalyst for revolutions of thought. And it's this exact energy that makes Aquarius carry a very unique frequency, one that sets them apart, effortlessly. Since childhood, Aquarius has always thought in ways unlike the majority. They ask questions where others accept. They doubt where others trust. They look beneath the surface while others settle for appearances. And because of that, they're not easily embraced. The crowd prefers simplicity and agreement. But Aquarius, being a fixed air sign, is someone who constantly analyzes, questions, and often speaks out things no one wants to hear. Or worse, chooses silence when others expect confirmation. That contradiction makes them hard to read in the eyes of others, even though inside they're always very clear. The deepest wound of Aquarius doesn't come from hatred. It comes from being misunderstood. They're called weird when they're just being honest with their thoughts, seen as cold when they're simply trying to understand emotions instead of being swept away by them, labeled distant when inside they're just trying to live authentically. And because no one truly sees them, no one understands the reason behind that difference. Aquarius starts to hide, hiding their complex thoughts, hiding even their real wounds. Because the more they speak up, the more they're misunderstood. The more they open up, the more they're shut down by judgmental looks. Aquarius pain is not a single deep cut. It's a series of small repeated scrapes. Why aren't you like everyone else? When do you always think differently? Why can't you just go with the flow? These questions may seem harmless, but when heard often enough, they turn into self-doubt. And when they no longer know what's right or wrong, Aquarius chooses to withdraw. Not to rebel, not to explain, just to stop sharing. Just to stop needing to be understood. And from there, a very Aquarius kind of wound is born. They smile gently, speak eloquently, but no one touches what's inside. They still live, still help others, still offer brilliant ideas, but their inner world remains separate, like a thin pair of glasses, transparent, yet no one sees through. And the saddest part? They themselves begin to get used to not being seen. They start to believe it's normal, and that normalcy becomes the most subtle mask Aquarius has ever worn. If you've listened this far, and you're an Aquarius, or someone in love with or living beside an Aquarius, you've likely felt a part of them that few could ever name. Click subscribe to continue into the deeper layers of this journey, where each emotion will slowly unfold, and perhaps you'll realize Aquarius was never cold like you thought. They just live with a heart that stays awake. When Aquarius has spent too long feeling misunderstood, they stop trying to explain. They begin to push back, not with anger, but through withdrawal, a very quiet kind of rebellion, choosing not to need anyone to understand them. There comes a moment when someone has been misunderstood enough times that they stop explaining. One choice is to keep trying to be accepted. The other, stop speaking. And Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, almost always chooses the second. Not because they don't want connection, but because they've tried and felt let down. Uranus is the planet of severing, of letting go, of breaking old patterns to build something entirely new. When Aquarius feels their true nature is not seen or understood, they won't beg someone to stay. They'll quietly withdraw. They'll build their own world where no one needs to understand them in order to be allowed to stay. In that world, Aquarius asks for no agreement, no nods of approval. They don't expect anyone to grasp the complex mental landscapes they carry inside, and they certainly don't want a relationship, just to preserve an image that says, "We're still okay." Aquarius rebellion doesn't show up as shouting or tears. They don't slam doors. They don't yell. They simply hold their energy out of the game. No more texts. No more explanations. No more presence. But what no one knows is that inside they let go long before that, because Aquarius belongs to the air element, representing clarity, logic, and an inner system that runs with quiet order. When their pain turns into rebellion, it doesn't show up on the face, it shows up in a decision. A decision to stop sharing, to stop attaching, and to not give a warning. They're still kind when you meet again, still pleasant, still polite, but you'll feel it clearly. You're no longer inside their inner world. The distance has already been built, not loud, but solid as stone. Many will call Aquarius cold or emotionally detached. But that's the wrong lens to view someone who's simply exhausted from proving their true worth. They choose logic not because they lack emotion, but because their emotions have been rejected far too many times. You might see an Aquarius who's successful, sharp, opinionated, surrounded by people, but you'll still feel it's as if they live like someone who doesn't need anyone at all. That's not their nature. It's a survival reflex trained into habit. Because when you don't belong to any mold, what you need most isn't to be understood. It's the permission to live authentically without needing to justify it. And if no one gives that to them, Aquarius will grant it to themselves. After they stop explaining and withdraw from connection, Aquarius enters a quieter phase. They still show up, still smile, still act with kindness, but they live entirely cut off from their inner world. A kind of escape that is beautiful, intelligent, and also deeply lonely. After the pain, after the rebellion, comes a strange state for Aquarius. They start smiling more, but retreat deeper within. The more cheerful they seem on the outside, the more distant they become inside. An invisible space begins to form, no noise, no announcement, just quietly growing larger and deeper. Why is that? Because Aquarius' form of escape isn't weakness. It's the survival strategy of a brilliant mind placed in the wrong environment. A defense mechanism that's highly intelligent and equally lonely. Because in a world where people connect through emotion, Aquarius is forced to survive through intellect. Remember, Uranus, Aquarius' ruling planet, is fast, disruptive, cold, and unpredictable. And Aquarius, a fixed air sign, can process enormous emotional data, yet finds it difficult to release it. When they can't connect through depth, they choose to exist through breadth. It's like opening many doors, but letting no one walk through. The more hurt they feel, the more outward they turn. They get busier. They socialize more. They speak more openly. They connect faster. But all of it is just to make sure no one reaches their core. That sacred space they protect with smiles, with politeness, with the constant appearance of being fine. Aquarius is a master at building a safe social buffer zone. A place where people think they're close, think they're sharing, think they're being heard. But in truth, Aquarius has already built an invisible wall with great care. So reply to texts. Still smile at parties. Still give wonderful advice. But when they're alone again at night, they know no one really stayed. No one sees that deep inside, they're empty. And even they don't quite know why, only that there's a distance they can't explain. A silence so deep no one sees it, and they no longer have enough reason to explain it to anyone. Why does this happen? Because in astrology, Uranus is the planet of detachment for objective observation. When this energy enters personal life, Aquarius unconsciously learns to pull emotion out of emotion. They no longer cry like they used to, no longer love as deeply as before, no longer ache the way they once did. This escape isn't about leaving the world, it's about leaving their own heart. It's about standing in the middle of life while quietly removing their soul from all points of connection. It's a self-preservation tactic that's uniquely Aquarius, unnoticed by others, unseen by the world, and sometimes unknown even to themselves. And the most frightening part? After a long enough time, Aquarius starts to believe they're truly fine, believe they don't need anyone, believe that independence is their nature, when deep down, they're just someone who has been let down too many times when they long to be touched. Even though they've learned to live cut off from emotion, even though they seem used to being alone, deep down, Aquarius still hopes someone delicate enough will choose to stay. Because they too want to love, just not in the way others usually do. After all the withdrawal and silence, one thing still lingers within Aquarius, a longing to be loved. Not a burning passion, not emotional dependency, but a kind of love that's subtle, quiet, yet enduring. A love that doesn't need explanation, doesn't demand attachment, doesn't require one to become the ideal partner. Many people believe Aquarius has no desire for romance, doesn't crave deep connection, doesn't care for emotional bonding. But the truth is the opposite. Aquarius wants to be loved. They just don't love the way most people do. In astrology, Aquarius is a fixed air sign, meaning they carry the energy of deep thought, independence, and firm conviction. But at the same time, that fixed quality makes them deeply loyal once they choose to trust. That's why Aquarius doesn't love casually. And they never love half-heartedly. They don't need someone to be by their side every minute. But they need someone who truly understands the complex, multi-layered operating system of their inner world. And that is rare. Because while most people love through emotion, Aquarius loves through consciousness. They love the way you think, the way you respond, the way you ask questions. If you spark their curiosity, they'll open up. But if all you want is for them to meet your expectations, they'll disappear. For Aquarius, love is not about clinging to each other. It's about being your full self beside each other. What they need isn't an ideal lover, but a mind friend. Someone who doesn't expect them to pretend to be sweet, simple, or easy to read. Because of this, Aquarius often finds themselves in contradiction when it comes to love. They want to be deeply understood, but don't spell things out. They want to be loved fully, but maintain a safe distance. They want someone patient enough to stay, but don't know how to keep that person from leaving. It's not that they don't want intimacy. It's that they've become so used to the idea that if someone gets too close, someday they'll have to protect themselves by walking away first. Avoiding emotion becomes a default defense. And loneliness, even if no one chooses it, becomes a familiar shelter. And then, in moments when there's no one left around, Aquarius quietly admits one very simple truth. I'm just a regular person. I want to be loved too, but I don't know where to begin so that someone can truly understand me. Rediscovering yourself when Aquarius stops proving and starts defining who they are. At some point, Aquarius will ask themselves, have I tried hard enough? Why does it still feel like no one truly understands me? And more often than not, the answer is you've done more than enough. The issue isn't that you haven't done things right. It's that you've been trying to live within a framework that was never built for someone like you. For Aquarius, no mold ever truly fits. The more you try to live by others' standards, the more exhausted you become. The more you try to please, the more you lose yourself. This isn't some lofty life philosophy, it's a fact. You are someone who thinks fast, thinks deep, and defies labels. So if you keep staying in environments that only accept the easily understood, you'll always feel wrong. The solution isn't to try to be more normal. It's to begin designing a selectively crafted space. A life where people respect your unique rhythm, where your work allows enough flexibility to avoid confinement, and where your relationships don't ask you to simplify yourself just to be loved. From a practical standpoint, Aquarius needs to reassess the roles they play in life. You may be good at your job, but is it suffocating you? You may have many connections, but is there anyone who truly lets you be yourself? You don't have to walk away from everything, but you do need to start keeping only what doesn't wound the different parts of you. And from there, your energy begins to return. Don't expect everyone to understand you. No one fully understands anyone. But do focus on finding people who don't distort you. They don't have to be soulmates. Just people who don't try to fix you. People who don't ask you to be more cheerful, more simple, or more agreeable just to make coexistence easier. Rediscovering yourself for Aquarius doesn't mean retreating to a monastery or quitting the world. It means removing the defense mechanisms you once used just to survive. The polite conversations that aren't truly honest. The relationships that are just enough to not feel lonely but lack real connection. The smiles that don't come from joy. And in the end, the most practical truth is this. You don't need to belong to a crowd. You just need to build one safe space, even a small one, where you don't have to hide the things that make you different. And only when you no longer have to strain to be understood, and you finally start living in the way that's truly yours. But the most miraculous thing is, After all the layers of hurt, resistance, withdrawal, and longing to be understood, Aquarius doesn't turn bitter. This episode brings to us a family, a beautiful affect of a life. They become more awake, and in that clarity, they begin to return quietly to being the guide of their own path. No drama, no longer needing to ask anyone, "Am I okay?" Because no one can live life on Aquarius' behalf, and no one can assign them a template for happiness to follow. They've realized one thing: their strength was never in being understood or accepted. It lies in this: they can stand tall even when no one understands, no one stands beside them, and no one believes in what they're doing, except themselves. Healing for Aquarius doesn't come from someone showing up with comfort. It comes from the moment they can say to themselves, "I don't need to be understood. I just need to not betray what I believe is right." And when those words are spoken, quietly but with full weight, that's when they no longer need to retreat, no longer need to run, no longer need to resist, because they have returned to their true energetic axis, returned to a self that is imperfect but free, transparent, and no longer needing to hide, no longer trying to please, no longer afraid to lose anyone. And if you're an Aquarius who sees yourself in this video, know that you're not strange, not wrong, not a mess. You're just living honestly in a world where most others are still pretending. And sometimes the bravest thing isn't to love someone else. It's to keep daring to be yourself. Have you seen yourself somewhere in this story? Or if you have an Aquarius close to you that you've never quite understood, feel free to leave a comment below. It could be just a sentence, a feeling, a moment. But who knows, maybe from that you'll receive more messages meant just for you. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you won't miss out on any more deep, grounded, and real astrological journeys that speak to you more clearly than ever before.